His flashlight never flickered, and his eyes never moved. Even in complete darkness, I could still feel him leading us deeper when none of us wanted to go. This happened my junior year of high school, during a spring field trip to a historic cave system in Kentucky. It was one of those hands-on learning experiences schools push, something about geology and American history. I wasn't excited, but it beat sitting in a classroom. The cave was part of an old mining site turned tourist attraction. Narrow tunnels, ancient carvings, even stories about Civil War soldiers hiding down there. A little spooky, sure, but it felt controlled. There were safety lights strung along the main path and emergency call boxes every 100 feet. We were split into groups of 10 and paired with assigned guides. Ours was a woman in her 30s named Marie Friendly, knew her stuff, joked about bats. Everything was fine until we reached a fork in the path. One tunnel continued along the lit route, and the other sloped downward into a darker, roped-off section. That's when he appeared. A man stepped out from the shadows near the roped path, tall, thin, wearing the same gray polo shirt as the other guides. No name tag. He had a flashlight, but it wasn't on. He introduced himself as Alan, said he was a specialist, and asked if our group wanted to see a lesser-known part of the cave that wasn't on the usual tour. Marie looked surprised. She said nothing and backed away, telling us she'd catch up with the main group. That should have been our first red flag. But Alan smiled and said it was a shortcut to the mineral wall, and for some reason, we followed him. There were 8 of us, me, 3 other guys, and 4 girls. We were talking and joking at first, trying to act cool about how dark it was getting. Alan led us deeper, turning corners without hesitation, never checking a map or a guide rope. His flashlight beam was too steady, no bubbing, no flicker, just a perfectly straight white circle gliding along the cave walls, like it was attached to a rail. And he never blinked. I noticed it first when I tried to make a conversation. Asked him how long he'd worked there. He just turned his head toward me slowly under. His eyes were wide, almost like glass. No twitch, no blink. The deeper we went, the colder it got. The air changed. It wasn't the normal damp cave kind of cold. It was dry, heavy, like something was pressing on our chests. The lights from the upper tunnels were long gone now. Only his flashlight guided us. And then, just like that, it went out. Complete darkness, no emergency lights, no cell signal, not even the sound of dripping water. Just silence so thick it felt like something was breathing right next to us. We all panicked. People started shouting, trying to grab for their phones, which barely lit more than a few inches in front of them. I called out for Alan. He didn't answer, but we could still hear footsteps. Not the scrambling kind from our group. These were slow, deliberate, crunching softly against the gravel floor, and they circled us. Someone screamed. A girl, I think it was Jessica, said she felt someone brush past her, but none of us had moved. I tried retracing our steps, but everything looked the same. Black stone, tight walls, no markers. Then suddenly, the flashlight came back on. Alan was standing 10 feet away, facing us, still smiling, still not blinking. Right this way, he said, like nothing had happened. We were too scared to argue. He turned and kept walking. None of us talked. We just followed, heads down, hoping we'd see the light from the main cave soon. But something was wrong. I couldn't tell how long we'd been walking. My watch had stopped. My phone screen was frozen. I asked the guy next to me what time it was, and he looked confused, like he wasn't sure how long we'd been down there either. Then, without warning, Alan stopped. He turned to us, still smiling, and pointed down a side tunnel we hadn't noticed. The way out is just ahead, he said. Then he turned off his flashlight again. Gone. This time, when we screamed, someone heard. A rescue team found us huddled in that same spot 20 minutes later. Apparently, we'd been missing for nearly an hour, and Marie had reported us when we didn't show at the mineral wall. But here's the part I still can't explain. The park manager said no one named Alan worked there. No guide matched that description. They said no one should have been in the restricted part of the cave, especially not with students. And the tunnel we were found in, it had been sealed for years. A rock slide in 1992 blocked it off after a guide got lost during maintenance. His name, Alan Mercer. His body was never recovered. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that flashlight, how steady it was, how calm he sounded in the dark, and how none of us, not one, can remember what happened during that missing hour. Only that when we were found, our shoes were wet. But that part of the cave has been bone dry for decades. Hello, I'm here, and this is a reading from a popular subreddit. I could hear someone breathing behind me, deep, raspy, slow, but when I turned around, all I saw were the wax figures. Still smiling. This happened to me when I was 13. Our 8th grade class took a field trip to a wax museum downtown, the kind that is supposed to be educational but mostly ends up being creepy. The whole place was themed around American history with wax figures of presidents, inventors, and war heroes. Some of them were shockingly lifelike. Too lifelike it was a half-day trip. We arrived around noon, split into small groups, and were given worksheets to complete. My group consisted of me, my friend Lucas, and this quiet kid named Travis who barely talked. He tagged along because his regular group ditched him. The museum was dimly lit, colder than I expected, and filled with a faint smell of dust and plastic. The audio guides didn't work properly, so there were these glitchy snippets of voices playing on loop, half a speech from Lincoln, bits of Paul Revere's Ride. It made the place feel wrong. Like the past was skipping. Some of the figures looked like they'd been moved recently. There were faint scuff marks on the floor in all directions. At one point we swore one of the mannequins had a tear rolling down its cheek. Lucas touched it. It was just a droplet of condensation, or at least that's what we told ourselves. By the time we got to the Revolutionary War exhibit, the place was practically empty. Our class had moved on to the cafeteria near the exit, but we were lagging behind, trying to fill in the last questions on the worksheet. I remember passing a hallway roped off for renovation. The lights were dimmer there, but I noticed a figure standing just inside the tape. Not a wax one, this one moved. He was tall, wearing a powdered wig and colonial coat. He didn't say anything. Just turned slowly and walked backward into the dark part of the hallway. We thought maybe he was a costumed employee, but something about his face looked wrong. Too waxy, too smooth, like someone had molded him wrong. That's when the lights flickered, just for a second. We decided to leave fast. We'd reached the front, lobby completely empty. No other students, no teachers, no one at the reception desk. The doors were locked. Lucas rattled the handles. Maybe they're automatic. They weren't. Travis tried the emergency exit, but it didn't budge. There was no alarm, nothing. My phone had no signal, neither did theirs. That's when we heard the faint click of footsteps echoing down the hallway, the same one with the roped-off exhibit. Heavy, deliberate, one step at a time. Lucas whispered, maybe it's security. But something deep in my chest told me it wasn't. We backed away, slowly, retreating toward the main exhibit room. The wax figures, Washington Franklin, Harriet Tubman, they were all still where they were. Still frozen, but then I noticed one was missing. There had been a figure of Benedict Arnold near the center, dramatically posed with a map in hand. Gone. Just gone. We didn't speak. Just kept walking, faster now, toward the cafeteria area. It was dark, chairs stacked, trays left mid-meal. Like everyone had rushed out at once and forgotten we were still inside. Then we saw the door to the bus lot. One locked. We sprinted to it, heart pounding, but outside there were no buses, no people, just a gray sky and empty lot. And standing in the far corner was the figure in the colonial coat. No longer still. We slammed the door shut and locked it. That's when the intercom crackled to life. History remembers the loyal. Traitors stay behind. Lucas screamed and dropped his phone. Travis started crying, quietly, muttering that we were going to be part of the exhibit. That's when I noticed the wax figures again. Closer. Washington was just a little bit closer to the hallway. So was Franklin. Tubman's eyes were now looking to the side. I grabbed the others and pulled them back to the lobby. The door's still locked, but I noticed the gift shop's glass entrance had one of those metal roll-down gates that hadn't been fully lowered. We could maybe squeeze under. We bolted for it. I swear I heard footsteps right behind us, soft thumps, but somehow echoing everywhere at once. I went under first, then Lucas. Travis got stuck halfway. I reached back to pull him through, and I saw something grab his leg. A hand, pale, too shiny. I yanked as hard as I could, and he came loose. We fell into the gift shop. The gate clattered shut behind us, and then silence. We huddled in the corner behind a shelf of overpriced mugs, barely breathing. After what felt like an hour, we heard voices outside the shop. Real ones. Adult ones. It was our teachers. The police. Someone had realized we were missing during roll call on the bus ride back. They said they searched the museum twice before they found us. They claimed the doors were never locked, that the museum had been open and staffed the whole time. No one believed us about the moving figures or the voice on the intercom. But here's the thing. Two weeks later, the museum permanently closed after a fire in the storage basement. They never announced a cause. In the article about it, they mentioned something strange. Except for one, they said it looked almost human, and it was wearing a powdered wig. I deleted his number the day after the funeral, but last Friday, while I was alone in the school hallway after dark, I got a text from him. It just said, "don't trust him." It started with detention. I was caught sneaking out of 5th period with some friends, trying to dodge a pop quiz. Dumb move, I know. I'd never gotten in real trouble before, so sitting in a silent, echoing classroom after hours felt like punishment enough. It was winter, already getting dark by 4:30, and the hallways outside were empty. The kind of empty that makes every creak and footstep feel 10 times louder. I kept glancing at the clock, wishing the minute hand would just move, when my phone buzzed in my lap. Unknown number, why are you back here? I frowned. It wasn't a number I recognized. Just 10 digits, no name. I didn't reply. Figured it was someone messing with me, maybe Kayla, who I ditched 5th period with. A minute later, unknown number, you shouldn't have come back, especially near his locker. That's when the hairs on my neck stood up. His locker. They never reassigned Matt's locker after what happened. My ex-boyfriend Matt died last year, January 11th. They said it was a freak accident. He stayed after basketball practice, went back to grab something from his locker in the athletic wing, and somehow the heavy metal door slammed shut on his neck when he bent to pick something up. Instant. No one found him until the janitor came through after midnight. I hadn't walked past that row of lockers since, and now this number was talking about it like it knew. I typed back, "Who is this?" No answer. After detention ended, I stepped into the hallway. The overhead fluorescents flickered in that annoying, lazy way. The building was dead quiet. I could hear the buzz of the lights and the faint hum of the heating vents, but that was it. I felt alone, but not completely alone. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number, he knows you're here. Get away from the locker. Now. I stopped. My heart thumped hard in my chest. I wasn't anywhere near the locker wing. Not yet, but it was down the hall, past the gym, and I had to walk that way to get to the parking lot. Another buzz. This time, a picture. It was dark, blurry, but clearly taken inside the school and unmistakably of Matt's old locker. Number 180. The dent was still there from the day he died. The image was taken from low to the ground. From inside a locker, I swallowed hard. My breath came shorter. My fingers were shaking. Then the final text. Don't trust him. You know who I mean? And I did no. Matt's best friend, Tyler, had gotten weird after the funeral. Too close, too fast. He tried hanging out with me constantly, texting late at night, talking about Matt like he barely knew him, which was odd considering they'd been best friends since middle school. Once, in April, I asked Tyler if he ever went near Matt's locker. He got real quiet and said they should have taken a crowbar to that thing. Some doors should stay shut. I thought he meant emotionally. Now, I wasn't sure. As I walked past the gym, I slowed. I wasn't planning to stop, but my legs did it on their own. Something cold trickled down my spine, the kind of chill that feels personal. I rounded the corner and saw the row of lockers. The overhead lights above that stretch were flickering faster than the rest. And there it was, locker 118. It was slightly ajar. That locker had been locked permanently since the accident. They even welded it shut after some students kept daring each other to knock on it. But tonight, it was open by an inch. Then I heard a voice from behind me. "Hey, what are you doing here?" It was Tyler. He looked pale, sweating, even though it was freezing in the hallway. His eyes darted between me and the locker. I said nothing, just stared at him. My phone buzzed again. I didn't look at the screen, just watched Tyler's expression as he heard it vibrate. "You shouldn't be back here," he said, stepping closer. "Let's get out of this hallway now." But I didn't move. My feet were glued to the floor. My gut screamed at me to run, to scream, to do something. But my brain was stuck on the last text I'd read. Don't trust him. As Tyler moved closer, the locker behind me creaked open just slightly wider, enough that I heard it. He froze. I turned my head just enough to glance at it. Something inside was moving. Not fast, not loud, just the faintest sound of metal scraping, like fingers dragging against the inside of the door. Tyler's voice cracked. "You didn't open it, did you?" I shook my head. He took a step back. Then another. I didn't mean to push him, he blurted suddenly. "It was just a joke. I didn't think he hit his head. He wasn't supposed to die." The locker door slammed open. Tyler screamed. Not words, just raw panic, and bolted down the hall. I didn't look inside. I couldn't. I turned and ran the opposite way, all the way to the parking lot, my hands numb, my breath catching in my throat. I never replied to the texts, never told anyone, but last night the school announced renovations. They're tearing out the old locker wing next week. This morning I got one more message. Unknown number, asterisk, don't let them open the locker again, and attached a new photo, taken from behind the slats, inside the locker. I dropped my phone like it had burned me. It clattered to the floor beside my backpack. Screen still lit with the image. I could see the side of my neck, a strand of hair caught mid-motion as if I had just turned my head, like someone had been watching me from inside the locker as I walked past it. I picked the phone up with trembling hands, staring at the screen until it went black. Part of me thought it had to be a prank, a cruel, elaborate prank. Maybe Tyler had set this up. Maybe he wanted to scare me into staying quiet. But deep down, I knew better. There were things in those texts he couldn't have known, things I never told anyone, not even my closest friends, like the last time Matt and I spoke. A fight. Sharp and stupid. I told him I didn't trust Tyler, that something about him felt off. Matt defended him. We hadn't spoken again before. The accident. Now I couldn't shake the feeling that Matt was trying to say I'd been right. I tried to act normal at school that day, but the anxiety made my skin itch. Every time I heard a locker slam, I flinched. Every time someone brushed past me in the hall, I tensed up, expecting cold fingers or a whisper I couldn't explain. By lunch I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know if the school was really planning to rip out that wing, if they were really going to open that locker. So I snuck into the main office while the secretary was on the phone, poked through the renovation forms stacked by the copier. There it was. A work order. Remove lockers 100 to 124, electrical rewiring scheduled for Friday. 2 days from now, Matt's locker -118 would be cracked open. Whatever was inside, whatever was still in there, wasn't supposed to be disturbed. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept my phone by my bed, screen up, brightness all the way down. Nothing came. No more messages. Just silence. And that somehow it felt worse. The next day I confronted Tyler, cornered him behind the gym near the storage closet where Matt had died just yards away. I asked him no. I demanded what he did that night. At first, he denied everything. Said I was sick for accusing him. Said I was trying to blame someone because I couldn't accept an accident. But I watched him crumble when I told him about the texts. I described the messages, the photo, the confession I never shared about that fight with Matt. Tyler's eyes widened. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. Or remembered one. I pushed him, he whispered. Just messing around. We were joking. He leaned into the locker to grab his shoes, and I slammed it shut, just to scare him. His voice broke. It was supposed to be funny. The silence after that felt too big for words. He said no one saw. He panicked. Left him there, made it look like an accident. And now, Matt was in the locker. Still, somehow, reaching out. That Friday, I stayed late, hid in the hallway behind the gym with the same stupid excuse I'd gotten detention for. Only this time I was hiding on purpose. The maintenance crew showed up around 6 p.m. 2 men in gray uniforms, chatting casually, tools in hand. They started cutting through the rusted bolts along locker 101, working their way down. When they got to 118, I held my breath. The air around me felt heavier. My chest hurt, like I was underwater. I wanted to scream stop, but I couldn't move. One of the workers touched the locker door, and every light in the hallway flickered out at once. Silence, then slam, the sound of metal crashing shut, echoing like a gunshot down the corridor. The lights came back. The workers were gone. Locker 118 was sealed again, perfectly shut. No tools, no work cart, no men, just ... gone. I don't know what I saw or didn't see, but the message was clear. Don't open the locker. Don't disturb what's inside. And most of all, don't ignore the warnings. That night I got one final text. Unknown number, thank you, no attachment. No chill crawling down my spine. Just stillness. I haven't gotten a message since, but I still walk past that hallway every day. Still feel the cold spot near locker 180 and still see. Sometimes, out of the corner of my eye just for a second, a face behind the vents. Watching, waiting, and if they ever open that locker again ... I know I'll get another text. Or maybe I won't. Maybe someone else will.